The screams echoed through the cold white halls. A small boy cried for help, but no one came. His name was David, and he was only 6 years old. The Suiban aliens had taken him from Earth. They were advanced and powerful. The Galactic Council called them important. But the Suiban were monsters. In their research station, a scientist named Hector did terrible things. He cut the boy's skin with sharp tools. He pushed needles into small arms. He wanted to see how much pain a human child could feel before breaking. David screamed every day. Hundreds of aliens heard those screams, but nobody helped. Nobody cared. David's father was a simple farmer named John. He wore dirt-stained clothes from working in the fields. When he learned what happened to his son, John's world shattered. John flew his old shuttle to the Galactic Council. He went to the big building where all the alien leaders met. He fell on his knees and begged them, "Please save my boy," John cried. "They are hurting him. Please help me." The alien council members looked at John with cold eyes. They did not care about one human child. The Suiban technology was too valuable. Their cloaking devices were too powerful. "This is a Suiban matter," they told John. "Humans should not interfere. Let the superior races handle this." Superior races. Those words burned in John's heart like fire. The council sent John away. They turned their backs on a father's tears. They chose politics over a child's life. They chose power over mercy. John walked out of that chamber a broken man. His hands shook as he flew back to Earth. He had failed his son. The mighty Galactic Council had abandoned them both. But John was not finished fighting. Not even close. He landed his shuttle at Earth Defense Force headquarters. The EDF was humanity's military. Their building was huge, covered with weapons and guards. John marched straight to the gate. He still wore his farm clothes. His eyes were wild with desperation. "I need to see whoever is in charge," John said. His voice was rough from crying. "It's urgent." The guards saw something in John's eyes. They saw a father who would never give up. They let him through. Inside, John met Admiral Samir Patel and General Liang. These men commanded all of Earth's forces. They had fought many battles and seen many horrors. "Sir, I'm John Sanders," he said. "The Suiban have my boy. They're torturing him. The council won't help. Please, I'm begging you." Admiral Patel held up his hand. His eyes were hard as steel. "We know who you are, Mr. Sanders," Patel said. "We've been watching your son's situation. We've seen what those monsters are doing." General Liang leaned forward. "We have no intention of letting it continue." For the first time in months, John felt hope. Finally, someone was listening. Finally, someone would act. The admirals did not waste time. They sent one simple message to the Galactic Council: return the human child and all prisoners immediately, or prepare for war. The council laughed at the message. Humanity was weak and small. What could humans possibly do against 100 alien worlds? They were about to find out. The EDF had been busy. While the council talked and did nothing, humans had been building. They created new weapons. They built powerful ships. They prepared for this moment. A massive human fleet appeared in Suiban space. The armada was enormous. It was bigger and stronger than anything the Suiban had ever seen. The galaxy watched in shock. The peaceful humans had become warriors overnight. The weak species had revealed hidden strength. Above the Suiban research station, the ESS Retribution hung in space like a dark angel. Dozens of battleships surrounded it. Their weapons were ready. On the bridge, Admiral Patel stood straight and tall. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with fury. "Hail them," Patel ordered. The screen lit up. Hector's sneering face appeared. The Suiban scientist smiled with cruel pleasure. "Admiral Patel," Hector said slowly, "what brings you here?" "You know why we're here," Patel replied. His voice was cold as ice. "Release the human child now," Hector laughed. The sound was harsh and evil. "The boy belongs to us now," Hector said. "We'll do whatever we want with him." He pressed a button. Another image appeared on the screen. Admiral Patel's blood went cold. It was David. The small boy was strapped to a metal table. Suiban scientists stood around him with knives and needles. David's screams filled the air. On the bridge, everyone stood in horrified silence. Some crew members had tears in their eyes. Others shook with rage. Admiral Patel's entire body trembled. His hands formed tight fists. "That," he said softly, "was a mistake." He turned to his weapons officer. "Fire." The moment Admiral Patel gave the order, hell broke loose. The EDF ships opened fire. Kinetic rounds flew through space like meteors. Plasma beams cut through the darkness. Graviton torpedoes slammed into the Sweben research station. The view screen turned white from the explosions. When the light cleared, the station was destroyed. Huge holes covered its hull. Fires burned across its surface. The place where they tortured David was now a broken shell. But the Sweben would not go down without a fight. Their sleek warships launched from the station. They were fast and deadly. The Sweben had always believed their technology was the best in the galaxy. Their weapons were advanced. Their shields were strong. They opened fire on the human fleet. Plasma bolts flew toward the EDF ships. The Sweben expected to see human vessels explode. They expected an easy victory. They were wrong. The human shields absorbed every hit. The plasma bolts bounced off like raindrops on steel. The EDF had been preparing for this day. While the galaxy slept, humanity had been working. They studied. They built. "They improved. Their shields are down," shouted Officer Liu from her station. Her voice was excited. "We're tearing them apart." Admiral Patel watched the battle with cold eyes. One by one, Sweben ships exploded. Their advanced technology meant nothing. Their pride meant nothing. They had hurt a child and now they would pay. The Sweben fleet tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to run. The EDF surrounded them completely. Every escape route was blocked. In just minutes, it was over. The research station was destroyed. The Sweben fleet was nothing but floating debris. Their ships burned in the void of space. On the bridge of the Retribution, the crew cheered. They hugged each other. They celebrated their victory. But Admiral Patel did not smile. He stared at the ruined station with hard eyes. "Send in the Marines," he ordered. "Find that boy. Find any survivors. And if Hector is still alive, bring him to me." His voice dropped to a whisper, but everyone heard it. "I want to look him in the eye before we end him." The Marines prepared quickly. These were Earth's best soldiers, tough, trained, and ready for anything. Admiral Patel and General Liang would lead them personally. They boarded assault shuttles and flew toward the broken station. The building was still burning. Smoke filled the corridors. Emergency lights flickered in the darkness. The Marines stormed inside. Their boots pounded on the metal floors. Their rifles were ready. Sweben soldiers appeared from the shadows. They fired their weapons. But the Marines were faster. Every alien that attacked them fell dead. Admiral Patel and General Liang pushed deeper into the station. They knew where they needed to go. The hidden labs, the torture chambers, the places where nightmares were made real. They blasted through locked doors. They shot down guards who tried to stop them. Blood covered the walls. Bodies lay in the corridors. And then they found him. David was in a dark room. The air smelled of chemicals and death. The small boy was strapped to a metal table. His body was covered in cuts and bruises. Needle marks dotted his arms. Blood pooled beneath him. For a moment, Patel and Liang could only stare. These men had seen war. They had seen death. But this was different. This was a child. An innocent child who had suffered unimaginable pain. Admiral Patel stepped forward. His hands were shaking. He carefully removed the straps that held David down. He lifted the boy in his arms like he was the most precious thing in the universe. "I've got you, son," Patel whispered. The tough admiral had tears in his eyes. "You're safe now. We're taking you home." David's eyes opened slightly. He was barely conscious. But he heard those words. For the first time in months, he felt safe. General Liang took point. His rifle was raised. "He scanned for threats. Let's move," he shouted. The Marines formed a protective circle around Patel and David. Their weapons pointed outward. Nothing would get through them. Sweben soldiers threw themselves at the humans. They wanted their test subject back. They needed to recapture the boy. But the EDF Marines cut them down without mercy. Their rifles flashed in the dark. The aliens fell one after another. The team fought their way back to the shuttle bay. The Sweben made one final desperate attack. Dozens of soldiers rushed forward. General Liang and his Marines held the line. They fired and fired until the shuttle bay was clear. The shuttle door closed behind them. The engines roared to life. They lifted off from the dying station and flew back toward the Retribution. In the shuttle's medical bay, doctors worked on David. They carefully removed his bloody clothes. They treated his wounds. They gave him medicine for the pain. Admiral Patel watched from the doorway. His face was a mask of rage. This child had suffered more than any person should suffer. And why? For some sick alien's curiosity. As the shuttle docked with the Retribution, a transmission came through. It was Hector. The Suiban scientist had survived. His face appeared on the screen. He was angry and insane with rage. "You think you've won, humans?" Hector screamed. Spit flew from his mouth. "You've only sealed your doom. We will hunt you to the ends of the universe. We will flay the skin from your bones." Admiral Patel stepped in front of the screen. He looked directly at Hector. His eyes were cold and hard as iron. He spoke 6 words. 6 words that would echo through history. 6 words that would change everything. "You should have let him go." Patel cut the transmission with a wave of his hand. He turned to face General Liang and the other officers. His voice was low but filled with terrible anger. "This is only the beginning," Patel said. "The Suiban, the Council, the whole galaxy thinks they can torture our children and get away with it. They think humanity is weak." He clenched his fist. His knuckles turned white. "They're about to learn how wrong they are. We're going to burn them, every last one of them. We're going to hunt them down and make them pay for what they've done." Admiral Patel looked out at the stars through the bridge window. "And when we're finished, the galaxy will never forget the day they messed with the human race." The crew stood silent. They understood what was coming. This was not just a rescue mission anymore. This was the beginning of a war that would shake the entire galaxy to its core. The EDF fleet moved toward the Suiban homeworld. Every ship was ready for battle. Every weapon was armed. Every soldier knew what they had to do. Admiral Patel stood on the bridge of the Retribution. He looked at the beautiful blue planet below. Cities covered its surface. Billions of Suiban lived there. They went about their normal lives not knowing what was coming. "Admiral," said General Ling quietly, "are you sure about this? There are civilians down there, children." Patel's jaw tightened. He thought about David, about the months of torture, about a father's tears. "They showed no mercy to our children," Patel said. His voice was ice cold. "We will show none to them." He pressed a button on his console. "This is Admiral Patel of the Earth Defense Force." His voice boomed across all frequencies. "The Suiban crimes against humanity end now. Evacuate your cities. Flee your planet. You have 1 hour." Chaos erupted on the Suiban homeworld. People ran through the streets. They screamed and pushed each other. Ships launched from spaceports, desperate to escape. Everyone wanted to get away from the human fleet above them. But the EDF had prepared for this. A wall of human ships surrounded the entire planet. It was an iron blockade. Nothing could get through. Suiban ships raced toward the gaps, trying to find a way out. Their engines burned bright as they pushed for maximum speed. The EDF guns thundered. Kinetic rounds tore through Suiban hulls. Ships broke apart, spilling bodies into space. Plasma beams sliced vessels in half. The wreckage drifted like burning leaves. "Any ship that tries to escape will be destroyed," Patel announced. "Your leaders made their choice. Now you pay the price." On the planet's surface, Suiban soldiers rushed to defensive positions. They manned huge anti-orbital cannons. These powerful weapons could hit ships in space. It was their last hope. The cannons fired. Bright beams shot toward the EDF fleet. "Incoming fire," shouted Officer Liu. "Deploy countermeasures," Patel ordered calmly. The human shields absorbed the hits easily. The Suiban weapons were powerful, but not powerful enough. "Return fire," Patel said. "Graviton torpedoes. Target all defensive positions." The EDF unleashed hell. Graviton torpedoes fell like rain. These were bunker-busting weapons. They could crack a planet's crust. When they hit, the ground shook for hundreds of miles. The anti-orbital cannons exploded one by one. Defensive bunkers collapsed. Suiban soldiers were buried under tons of rubble. The cannons fell silent. The Suiban defenses were broken. At the edge of the system, the Galactic Council fleet arrived. Ships from 100 different worlds gathered together. They had come to stop the humans. A few brave council ships flew toward the battle. They wanted to intervene. They wanted to stop the destruction. "Admiral, council ships are approaching," reported the communications officer. Patel's eyes narrowed. "Open a channel, wideband, all frequencies." "Channel open, sir." Admiral Patel's voice rang out across space with absolute authority. "This is a message to the Galactic Council. The Suiban crimes against sentient life are unforgivable. We are doing what you lacked the courage to do. Do not interfere or you will share their fate." The words hit like a hammer. There was silence. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly the council ships began to turn away. Their engines flared as they retreated to their own worlds. They had seen humanity's fury unleashed. They had seen what humans could do when pushed too far. They wanted no part of it. "Council ships are withdrawing," reported the officer. "Good," Patel said coldly. "Continue the bombardment." The EDF ships fired again and again. Cities burned. Skyscrapers fell. The once proud Swiban civilization crumbled under the assault. But Patel was not finished. "Prepare ground teams," he ordered. "We're going down there." General Ling looked surprised. "Sir, the bombardment is working. Why risk troops?" Patel's eyes were hard. "Because I want them to see us. I want them to look into human eyes and understand what they've done. I want them to know why they're dying." Hours later, EDF Marines landed on the smoking ruins of the Swiban capital. Their boots crunched on broken glass and ash. Fires still burned in the distance. The Marines moved through the destroyed city. They found Swiban survivors hiding in basements and shelters. Some were soldiers, some were scientists, some were just ordinary people. But the Marines were not there to harm civilians. They were looking for specific targets. "We're searching for war criminals," General Ling announced through loudspeakers. "Anyone involved in the torture programs. Give them to us or we level this entire sector." The Swiban people were terrified. They knew the humans were serious. They began pointing fingers. They identified the scientists, the guards, the administrators, anyone who had worked in the torture facilities. The Marines arrested them all. They found Dr. Velan, who had designed the pain machines. They found Commander Zrek, who had kidnapped human children. They found dozens of others, but Hector was not among them. The chief scientist had escaped. "Where is he?" Patel demanded, standing over a captured Swiban scientist. The alien trembled. "He fled. When the attack began, he took a ship and ran. I don't know where he went." Patel's fist slammed into the wall. Hector had escaped. The monster who had hurt David was still out there. "Find him," Patel ordered. "I don't care if it takes years. I don't care if we have to search every corner of the galaxy. Find Hector." Back on the Retribution, David was slowly recovering. The doctors had healed his physical wounds. But the mental scars would take much longer. Admiral Patel visited the boy in the medical bay. David was awake now, sitting up in bed. He looked so small and fragile. "Hello, David," Patel said gently. He sat down in a chair beside the bed. "How are you feeling?" David looked at the Admiral with haunted eyes. "Are they gone?" "The bad aliens?" "Most of them, yes," Patel said. "Their planet is destroyed. Their fleet is scattered. They can't hurt anyone anymore." "But not all of them?" David asked. He was a smart boy. He understood. Patel shook his head honestly. "No, not all. Some escaped, but we will find them. I promise you that." David was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised the Admiral. "I want to help." Patel frowned. "You're just a child. You need to rest. You need to heal." "They made me strong," David said. His voice was soft but determined. "All the tests. All the experiments. I'm not normal anymore. I can feel it. I'm stronger than before, faster, it was true." The doctors had noticed it too. The Swiban experiments had changed David's body somehow, enhanced it. "When I grow up," David said, looking directly at Patel, "I want to be a soldier. I want to make sure no other child goes through what I did." Admiral Patel felt his throat tighten. This brave, broken boy wanted to protect others, even after everything he had suffered. "When you're older," Patel said quietly, "if you still want to serve, the EDF will be honored to have you." He stood up to leave, but David called after him. "Admiral, thank you. For saving me. For not giving up." Patel turned back. He gave the boy a sharp salute. "Never," he said. "Humanity never abandons its own." As Patel walked back to the bridge, he thought about the future. The Swiban were broken but not destroyed. Hector was still out there. And the galaxy had learned a terrible lesson. Humanity was no longer weak, no longer helpless. They had shown their teeth, and they would never let anyone hurt their children again. 10 years passed. David Sanders was no longer a broken child. He was now 16 years old and already taller than most men. The Swiban experiments had changed him. His body healed faster. His mind worked quicker. His reflexes were lightning fast. He trained every single day. He studied combat. He learned weapons. He pushed himself harder than any instructor demanded. The other recruits called him obsessed. They were right. David never forgot what happened to him. The pain, the fear, the feeling of being helpless. He swore he would never be helpless again. The EDF noticed his potential. They created a special program for enhanced individuals like David. They called it the Spartan Program. Only the best of the best were selected. David was the first. They gave him advanced armor. They taught him tactics and strategy. They turned him into a living weapon. But David had his own goal. He was hunting for one name. Hector, the Suiban scientist, was still alive. After escaping the destruction of his home world, Hector had gone into hiding. But he was not sitting quietly. Hector gathered the survivors. Angry Suiban soldiers, bitter scientists, anyone who hated humanity. He formed a group and called it the Vengeful Claw. They struck without warning. Human colonies burned. Outposts were destroyed. The Vengeful Claw left no survivors, only bodies and ruins. News reports showed the aftermath of their attacks. Families killed, children murdered, buildings reduced to ash. Each attack was brutal and cruel. The galaxy watched in horror. But the Galactic Council did nothing. Again, we cannot interfere, they said. This is a matter between humans and Suiban. The same excuse they used before. The same cowardice. Admiral Patel, now older but no less determined, mobilized the entire EDF fleet. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon they had, we will hunt them down, Patel announced. We will find every member of the Vengeful Claw, and we will end them. But the Vengeful Claw was smart. They hit fast and disappeared. They hid in asteroid fields. They moved from system to system. They were like ghosts. The EDF needed something better, something faster, something unstoppable. They needed the Spartans. David stood in the briefing room with his team. There were 12 Spartans now. All of them were enhanced. All of them were deadly. But David was their leader. Intelligence reports that the Vengeful Claw is hiding on a lunar base in the Outer Rim, General Ling explained. He was older now, his hair gray, but his eyes still sharp. They have hostages. 20 human colonists, including children. David's jaw tightened. Children, just like he had been. We're sending you in, Liang continued. Rescue the hostages, eliminate the Vengeful Claw, and if possible, capture Hector alive. Understood, sir, David said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. The Spartans deployed immediately. Their ship cut through space silently. They approached the lunar base under stealth mode, no lights, no signals, invisible. They landed on the dark side of the moon. The Spartans moved across the rocky surface like shadows. Their armor made them nearly invisible. Their footsteps made no sound. David's enhanced senses picked up everything. Heat signatures inside the base. Movement patterns. Guard positions. He shared the data with his team through their neural link. They breached the base through a ventilation shaft. Inside, the corridors were dark and narrow. Perfect for an ambush. But the Spartans were ready. A Vengeful Claw soldier stepped around a corner. David's knife found his throat before he could scream. The body dropped silently. The Spartans moved deeper. They communicated through hand signals, no words. Pure efficiency. They found the first group of guards in a control room. 6 Suiban soldiers watching monitors. They never saw the Spartans coming. David's team hit them like a storm. Silenced weapons. Precise shots. In 5 seconds, all 6 guards were dead. Hostages located, whispered Spartan 23 through the comm. Central chamber. 20 humans confirmed, but heavy guard presence. We go in fast, David said. Flashbangs first. Then we clear the room. No mistakes. The Spartans stacked up at the door. David counted down with his fingers. 3, 2, 1. They breached. Flashbangs rolled across the floor. Blinding light. Deafening noise. The Vengeful Claw soldiers grabbed their eyes and screamed. The Spartans poured into the room. Their weapons barked. Each shot was perfect. Each target fell. The enemy had no chance. In 30 seconds, the room was clear. 20 dead Vengeful Claw soldiers, 0 human casualties. The hostages huddled in the corner. They were scared but alive. David approached them slowly, removing his helmet so they could see his face. We're EDF, he said gently. You're safe now. We're taking you home. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, looked up at him with wide eyes. She reminded David of himself at that age, scared, alone, hurting. Are the bad aliens gone? she asked in a small voice. Yes, David said softly. They can't hurt you anymore. But then his enhanced hearing picked up something. Footsteps. Running. Coming fast. Contact. He shouted, pulling his helmet back on. Hostiles incoming. Vengeful claw soldiers poured into the chamber. Dozens of them. They fired wildly, their plasma bolts lighting up the darkness. The Spartans formed a protective wall around the hostages. Their shields absorbed the hits. They returned fire with disciplined bursts. David saw him then. Through the chaos and smoke, at the back of the enemy formation, Hector. The Swiban scientist stood there, older now but still recognizable. He held a small device in his hand. He was smiling. Hello, David. Hector's voice came through the comm system. I've been waiting for you. It's over, Hector, David said, his rifle trained on the scientist. Surrender now, Hector laughed. That same cruel laugh from 10 years ago. The laugh that haunted David's nightmares. Over? Oh no, boy. This is just beginning. He pressed the button on his device. Suddenly, David felt wrong. His enhanced strength faded. His speed decreased. His reflexes slowed. Around him, the other Spartans stumbled. Their armor sparked and shut down. What did you do? David demanded. A nullification field, Hector said proudly. It cancels all enhancements. All that special technology you rely on. Gone. Now you're just ordinary humans again. The vengeful claw soldiers pressed their attack. Without their enhancements, the Spartans were in trouble. They were still trained soldiers, but the enemy outnumbered them 5-1. Fall back, David shouted. Protect the hostages. His team formed a tighter circle. They fought with everything they had. Fists, knives, rifle butts, pure human determination. David looked at Hector across the battlefield. Even without his enhancements, even facing impossible odds, he was not afraid. Because he remembered something important. Something that made humans special. It was not their technology, not their enhancements, not their weapons, it was their refusal to give up. Their ability to fight even when they should not win. Their determination to protect the innocent no matter the cost. David charged forward with a roar. His team followed him. Behind them, the colonists grabbed whatever they could find. Metal pipes, tools, rocks, they all charged together, humans and Spartans, adults and children, all of them fighting as one. The vengeful claw expected easy prey. They expected the humans to break. To run, they were wrong. The battle turned into chaos, hand-to-hand combat, desperate struggles. But the humans fought with something the aliens could never understand. They fought with heart. For Earth, David screamed, his fists smashing into alien faces. For our families, shouted the colonists, swinging their makeshift weapons. For humanity, roared the Spartans, refusing to fall. Hector watched in disbelief. His plan was failing. These weak, powerless humans were winning anyway. He turned to run. But David saw him. You're not getting away this time, David growled. He sprinted after Hector, his legs burned. His lungs screamed. But he pushed harder. He would not let the monster escape again. David chased Hector through the burning corridors of the lunar base. Explosions rocked the walls. Debris fell from the ceiling. But David did not stop. Even without his enhancements, he was faster than the old scientist. Years of training had made him strong. The torture had made him determined. Nothing would stop him now. Hector looked back in panic. His eyes were wide with fear. The monster who had hurt a helpless child now ran from that same child grown into a warrior. Stay away from me, Hector screamed. He fired a plasma pistol wildly. The shots missed David by inches. David dodged and rolled. He came up running even faster. His muscles burned, but he pushed through the pain. He had endured worse, much worse. Hector reached a door and slammed it shut behind him. David hit it with his shoulder. The metal dented but held. He stepped back and kicked. Once, twice, 3 times. The door broke off its hinges. Inside was a small control room. Hector stood at a console, his fingers flying over the buttons. You should have stayed broken, Hector snarled. You are my greatest experiment. I could have learned so much more from you. I'm not your experiment, David said coldly. I'm your judgment. Hector pressed a final button. A hologram appeared showing the entire base. You see this? Hector said, his voice shaking with madness. I've rigged the whole facility to explode. Everyone dies. You, me, your precious hostages. All of us. David's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. Am I? Hector held up a dead man's switch. If I let go of this trigger, we all die. If you kill me, we all die. You lose either way. For a moment, David stood frozen. He had come so far, trained so hard, and now this monster would take everything away again. But then David remembered something Admiral Patel had told him years ago. A true warrior protects others, even at the cost of himself. David's hand went to his comm. Spartans, this is David. Evacuate all hostages immediately. Get them to the ships. You have 5 minutes. But sir, came Spartan 23's voice. What about you? That's an order, David shouted. Get those people to safety, now. He could hear his team moving. Footsteps running. The hostages being guided to safety. That little girl who reminded him of himself would live. That was all that mattered. Hector watched with cruel satisfaction. Noble, stupid but noble. You're going to die for nothing. No, David said quietly. I'm dying so they can live. That's everything. But David had no intention of dying. Not yet. He watched Hector carefully. The scientist's hand trembled on the switch. Sweat dripped down his face. He was scared good. You know what I remember most? David asked, his voice conversational. The pain was bad. The experiments were horrible. But you know what was worse? Hector said nothing, but his eyes flickered nervously. Your laugh, David continued. That cruel, cold laugh when I screamed. When I begged you to stop. You enjoyed it. Science requires sacrifice, Hector said defensively. You're no scientist, David spat. You're just a sadist who found an excuse. David took a step forward. Hector's finger twitched on the trigger. One more step and I'll do it. Hector screamed. Go ahead, David said calmly. He took another step. But you'll die too. And you're too much of a coward for that. Hector's hand shook harder. David could see the fear in his eyes. The scientist had always been in control, always had power over his victims. Now he was the one who was helpless. You're insane. Hector shouted. No, David said. I'm just not afraid anymore. You taught me that. You tried to break me. Instead, you made me stronger. David lunged forward. Hector's finger pressed the trigger. But David was already moving. His hand shot out and grabbed Hector's wrist. He twisted hard. Bones snapped. Hector screamed and dropped the switch. David caught it in midair. Evacuation complete, came the comm. All hostages are safe. David smiled grimly. He looked at Hector, who was clutching his broken wrist and whimpering. You wanted to see how much pain a human could endure, David said. Let me show you what a human can do when they stop feeling pain. His fist crashed into Hector's face. Once, twice, 3 times. Years of rage poured out. Every nightmare, every scar, every moment of suffering. Hector fell to the ground, bleeding and broken. David stood over him, breathing hard. Please, Hector whispered. Please, I'm sorry. I'll tell you everything. Where the other bases are, where my allies hide. Just don't kill me. David looked down at the pathetic creature. This was the monster from his nightmares. Now he was just a broken old alien begging for mercy. The mercy he never showed others. David raised his fist. It would be so easy. One more hit. That's all it would take, but then he stopped. No, David said quietly. You're not worth it. He pressed his comm. General Ling, I have Hector alive. Send a shuttle to extract us. Negative, came Lang's voice. The base is collapsing. Multiple explosions. You need to get out now. David looked around. Lang was right. The room shook. Cracks appeared in the walls. The whole facility was coming down. He grabbed Hector by the collar and dragged him to his feet. Move! They ran through the corridors. Behind them, sections of the base collapsed. Fire chased them. The air grew hot and thin. David saw an emergency airlock ahead. It led to the surface. If they could just reach it, they could signal for extraction. But a massive explosion threw them both forward. David hit the ground hard. His vision blurred. Blood trickled from his forehead. He looked up. The path to the airlock was clear. He could make it, but Hector lay behind him. A beam had fallen across his legs. The scientist was trapped. David could leave him. Let the monster burn. Justice would be served. He started toward the airlock. Then stopped. Damn it, he muttered. He went back. He grabbed the beam and lifted. His muscles screamed. Without his enhancements, it was nearly impossible. But David pushed harder. The beam moved. Just enough. Hector crawled free. Why? Hector gasped. Why save me? Because I'm not you, David said simply. They made it to the airlock. David sealed it shut just as another explosion rocked the base. They were on the lunar surface now. The base behind them was a ball of fire. A shuttle descended from the sky. EDF markings on its hull. The rescue team had arrived. As they flew away, David looked at Hector. The scientist sat in restraints, his head down. "You're going to trial," David said. "The galaxy will see what you are, what the Sui-Ban did, and you'll spend the rest of your life in prison." Hector looked up. For the first time, his eyes showed something other than cruelty or fear. They showed shame. "I was wrong," he whispered. "About humans. About you. You're not weak. You're stronger than any race I've studied." David said nothing. He just stared out the window at the stars. Back on the Retribution, Admiral Patel waited. He was old now, retired from active duty, but he had come personally to see this mission end. When David stepped off the shuttle, Patel saluted him. "Well done, Spartan," Patel said. "The hostages are safe. Hector is captured. The Vengeful Claw's main base is destroyed." "It's not over," David said. "There are still more of them out there." "I know," Patel nodded. "But today we won. Today we saved lives. That's what matters." David looked at his hands. Hands that had killed. Hands that had saved. He thought about that little girl. She would go home to her family. She would grow up safe, because he had been there to protect her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was what it meant to be human. To protect the innocent. To never give up. To show mercy even to those who showed none. The Sui-Ban had tried to break him. The Vengeful Claw had tried to kill him. But David Sanders still stood, and he would keep standing. As long as there were people who needed protecting. As long as there were monsters who needed stopping. He was a Spartan. He was a warrior. He was human, and humans never surrender.